Have you ever wondered how to stay visible without having to be in all the places all the time? Trying to do visibility in the way that experts tell you to can feel like you're constantly stuck in a never ending to do list. But what if there was another way, a way that felt aligned, spacious, and sustainable? Well, in today's episode, I'm joined by Bree Boucher, an introvert visibility coach who brings a beautiful blend of mindset, manifestation, and strategy to the visibility conversation. We cover off why traditional visibility advice can lead to exhaustion and what you can do instead, from uncovering the beliefs that might hold you back to choosing the right platforms for you. Listen in as Bree shares how to create visibility that feels good and gets results. Welcome to the Powerful Content Podcast, your go-to source for content creation, strategy, and business inspiration. I'm your host, Mel Daniels, content strategist, coach, and speaker, empowering women across the globe to grow their business with powerful content that connects, nurtures, and converts. So, if you're ready to create standout content that gets you noticed and remembered, or build an aligned audience who love you and are ready to buy from you, you're in the right place. I believe that content has the power to connect us all. It's up to you how you use it. Listen in for genuine and insightful chats with guests, as well as practical tools and strategies from me. It's so lovely to have you here. Let's dive into the show. I acknowledge the Wongal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the country that I am recording from today. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nation people listening today. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to episode 165 of the Powerful Content Podcast. You know what? I'm kind of pumped for today's conversation because the human behind the other mic today is a big believer in using collaborations for growth, amongst other things, which we will get into shortly. But today I have with me introvert visibility coach Bree Boucher to talk all things visibility. Welcome to the podcast, Bree.
Thank you so much for having me, Mel. It's so good to chat with you personally. We followed each other for a little while, and now it's really cool to actually see you on the other side of the camera.
It is really cool. So I actually came into your world I think it was about 18 months ago via your Facebook group, Bundles of Bundles.
Bundles?
Yes,
Yeah.
Bundles of Bundles. And I've just been an absolute huge fan of your growth, which now includes teaching about mindset and manifestation as well as collaboration. So not just the focus on collaboration. So my first question for you today, Bree, is first off, how did mindset and manifestation meld with this idea of collaboration to become part of your life and what you teach others about as well?
Yeah, love that you're asking this question. So it actually probably is where I started in my business. So if we go back to like 6 years ago when I first started my business, I was a soul alignment coach, which basically means a purpose coach, like someone helping people find their purpose. And in that time, I studied and trained as an NLP, hypnosis, and EFT practitioner. So a lot of what I was doing back then was a lot of that like mindset, manifestation, like that energy kind of work. And over time, I was taken towards the direction of like helping people in business, which evolved into me being more in like the strategy side and the behind the scenes side and, all of that sort of stuff. And now kind of coming full circle, like bringing all of that strategy, all of the content that I've created and bringing it back to the things that I really enjoy, which is I love to see people transform. I love to see the transformation and seeing that they can really make a difference in their business and in their life by following like their soul's kind of desire, inspiration, what they're meant to be doing. And how I weave all of that into the collaboration stuff is that I really, really think that there's a lot of the stuff that's going under the surface around visibility that people don't realize. And so for me, that's like helping them, not only with the strategy and getting themselves out there and finding the activities to be a part of, but helping them through those moments where they're going to be blocked. Like, oh my God, I've just, added 1,000 people to my email list in a collaboration. Now what do I do? Okay, so like there's the strategy, the practical side, but like, why are we freaking out? And so helping people with that.
I love that. I love that story so much, Bree, because of the fact that you started with a certain set of skills and a certain set of passion, a certain set of purpose. You moved away from that, but still serving your life's purpose through helping
Yeah.
people, and then have been able to come circle back to that and bring those additional skills and tools to the table in order to serve your beautiful clients. So I think that that happens quite a lot. And I think that people don't realize that it's happening in their life as well, that they believe that whatever they're doing is their purpose, which it probably is, but they go and do something different and think that that maybe isn't their purpose, but they are just serving their purpose in a different way. So I love that. I love how your purpose has really
Yeah.
melded over time.
Thank
Now,
you.
we're talking about visibility today, Bree,
Mm.
and doing it in a way that feels good for you. And I know that plenty of my listeners are probably thinking right about now, Bree, Mel, are you kidding me? Think, how can visibility and feeling good go together? So let's firstly touch on why you think that perhaps the traditional view of visibility leads or could lead potentially to burnout.
Yeah. So I definitely experienced this. And so for me, it was visibility on social media because I got to a point where I was able to do all of the things. Like, so initially when I started, it took a little bit of time for me to kind of get my feet in social media and being like the visible, person that I was and am. But it was about like maintaining. Like, so for me, whenever I feel good about things is when I have some momentum and when things kind of are flowing quite well, but you can kind of get stuck in the trap of like constantly churning out content for the algorithm and all that sort of stuff. And so I actually needed to take a break from social media a couple of years ago. I had a little bit of a hiatus to let myself reset. And a big reason for that was because I wanted to really grow how I was emailing people because I knew I wanted to email more frequently, but I wasn't able to do that when I was churning out content every day for social media. So, to be honest, it's actually choosing the place that you want to be visible and the way that you want to be visible first. Don't fall for like other people's beliefs around like what is the right place to be. And we naturally gravitate to social media because we're always scrolling social media. So we think that's where we need to be visible. But that's like one of a bazillion types of like visibility strategies. So for me, written content has always been really great for me to like share my feelings, thoughts, experience. And so I really wanted to get into email marketing more. And once I had a handle of that, then I was able to go back to social media and kind of like drop in when I felt like it. So yeah, a big thing is just making sure that you're following your own purpose and reason to be on social media and not just kind of churning out content. So my story of like what I've done in business has evolved to the point where at one stage I was actually a Reels coach. So I
Ah.
definitely went all in on that space and I was teaching people. I had a course about it and everything. But that was just me following essentially the algorithm and what people were needing at that moment. But it wasn't really something that I was excited about. So that comes into like everything about business, but especially in visibility as well.
Wow, so much gold that I could pull out of that Brie right there. But I'm so with you, and I know my listeners know this as well, that when you say there are so many shoulds out there, we hear there is so much noise telling us that we should be on socials, we should be emailing, we should have a Facebook group, we should have all of these things. And it does lead to that point where we are so overwhelmed with all of the shoulds that we don't end up doing any of them, or we do them and we don't do them very well at all. So it really is coming back to yourself and coming back to your strengths and coming back to what you really love. And I think that you gave a great example there of how you were on socials all of the time and you were just churning out the content and trying to feed that algorithm beast, that huge beast, and then realize that that wasn't what you really wanted and had a break. Now, the shoulds are probably one of the common pieces of visibility advice out there. You know, you should be doing all the things. Besides all of the things that we've just spoken about, Brie, I think that there are probably some other things that can cause us to really feel like we have to be visible and that could potentially lead to burnout. Is there anything else that could actually put us on that track towards burnout where we just definitely do not want to be when it comes to visibility.
Yeah, I think that a big thing is having a content schedule or content plan that actually doesn't force you into a place where you're actually putting out more content than you can actually like create in a day or in a
Mm.
week or whatever. Like, so for me, I have like quite big aspirations of like putting out a lot of content. I have a Substack, I have YouTube, I have like my emails, but I've layered that up so that I have that capacity to do that in a way that, things are happening like easily for me now. When I first started, that would have been way too much for me to try and do all at once. And the other part of it is like repurposing the content that I've already written. So, like, for me, it's deciding I have a hero piece of content, like one place that everything flows from. And then it's actually repurposing it into different platforms in different ways. Before we started, I talked about how I like to take podcast interviews and grab the transcript and like look at what wisdom came out of that, through our conversation and like, okay, what can I do with that? Can I put that into a course, like a lesson for a course, or can I create a freebie that, something would be quite useful based on what we talked about? Can I put this into a YouTube video and all that sort of stuff? But for me, like the biggest thing to remember is I've gotten to a point on my business where I can layer these things in. And a lot of the times we look to other people like myself, like we were able to do all of these things and it's taken us time to get there. Like if I tried to do all of this 5 years ago, it would have been too much. And that's where the burnout came from because it's that comparison of other people's now moments and not like where you are, just looking at how other people are trying, to get their voice out there and trying to reverse engineer, it's not going to work for you because you're not there yet.
Yeah, oh, I love that point. There's two things there. First of all, that whole reimagination piece. Oh my goodness. Yes, yes, yes. It's just amazing what you can take from one piece of, you call it hero content, I call it core content, but just having that one piece, that meaty, binge-worthy piece of content can make a huge difference to your visibility in terms of being able to, I guess, make it look like you're everywhere because that's what
Yes.
visibility is, isn't it? Like it kind of feels like when we think of people that we think of who are highly visible, we think about them being everywhere. But the reason that they're everywhere is either they have the capacity to do it and the systems to do it, which you just touched on, and they take that hero piece of content and really disseminate it in so many different beautiful ways. I think that
Mm,
that is one thing that is really interesting as well, Brie. And it is about a journey. Visibility is about a journey and having those extra layers of content, like you said, build upon each other to make it look like that you are everywhere, where in fact you are not.
yes, absolutely. So there's a thing called omnipresence or omnipresent, and it basically means, like you're saying, that people say to you, like, I'm seeing you everywhere. You are everywhere. I can see your Facebook ads, I can see collaborations you're in, I can see like all of the social posts in all of the different platforms. But it comes from that one place of here's my content, this is what I'm ultimately promoting, and how it all like plays back into it and then we're seen everywhere because we've made our content and our voice do all of the extra work, like it's double timing it for us or triple timing or quadruple timing, like there's so many different ways we can kind of put our content to work for us.
Yeah. Another great example, listeners, of the power of reimagination. Listen to Bree. She knows what she's talking about. So now we know what visibility is and what could cause us to lead to that place of feeling overwhelmed or burnt out with visibility. What kinds of things do you think can impact our ability to be seen?
I think the biggest part is deciding what you want to be known for and like how you want to be perceived. And ultimately, I always think about like, what are we selling to start off with? And we have to reverse engineer everything from there. So, whenever I pitch myself for a podcast or a summit or a bundle or like all of the different things, ultimately I'm asking myself, what am I promoting first? And then what happens, how do I want to communicate that in a way that other people would be interested in, like what's the theme of the conversation or the theme of like the thing that I'm doing to be visible. So that would be the first thing, always to think forward, like ultimately where do we want to feed people through? Like it's the funnel kind of thing. Like what's the funnel that we want to take someone through? And then it's like the way in which you want to, yeah, as I said, be perceived, be known for. So for me, I went through a stage where I really, really wanted to be known to as like the bundle person. And so a lot of people know me as that and exclusively know me as that and may not realize all of the stuff that we talked about at the start, like
Yeah.
studying to be a hypnosis practitioner, NLP, EFT, all that sort of stuff. And I sometimes surprise people with that extra information. And so for me, it's now like, this is what I want people to know about more. So I lead with that. I try to lead with that as like what I'm doing now. So before I was leading with bundles and then evolved it to collaborations broadly. But now I can lead with the mindset stuff. And so just deciding on that, it's sort of like the persona or the personality or the ultimate vision of who you want to be seen as. And you can kind of, yeah, be visible that way.
Mhm. I love those 2 points. So deciding what you, actually reverse engineering. So deciding what the thing is that you want to promote and reverse
Yeah.
engineer it from there. And secondly, deciding what you want to be known for, which is all about our thought leadership. So great tips there on how to think about visibility and how to think about approaching any of the collaborations that you're thinking of doing. Now, you mentioned mindset. Let's talk mindset for a second, Bree.
Sure.
Let's get
Let's
into
get
what you
into
want to be.
it.
So, is there anything from a mindset perspective that can hold people back from being visible?
So much.
Tell us.
Like where do we start? I think it obviously depends on individual circumstances. And so some people might have something really outside of, the norm. But the traditional things that people seem to get caught up on is self-worth, confidence. They tend to be quite interlinked, but they have a very, like, they're quite different in terms of what's going on under the surface. So self-worth, visibility, judgment, so fear of being judged, and sometimes even fear of success. So fear of being so successful, and what does that mean for you as a person? Like, do people start to see you differently? So do you actually want to be a keynote speaker? What would that feel like to you in your body? Like right now, if I said tomorrow you're going to speak on stage, like in front of 100 people, are you actually ready for that right now, even though that's a dream of yours? And so like, why is that feeling really icky even though you really want it? And so we need to like explore what's happening below the surface. So like I say, it's very individualized, but it's also quite universal. So
Mm.
individual kind of responses to experiences is quite different, but there's those like key things that we tend to feel a bit like scared about or icky about and uncomfortable about.
Mm. So, how can
Yeah.
someone begin to even recognize these things and start to shift those beliefs without, being really judgmental to themselves? I guess there's probably a couple of parts to this question, though, Brie. It's more about how do you even recognize that these things are happening? And once you have recognized it, how do we begin to shift them?
Yeah. So when I was first starting out in business and prior to starting my business, I was very much in like a inner kind of development space, like in terms of figuring out myself and like how I was thinking and how I was dealing with things. And a big part of what really helped me was journaling and digging in that way. So for me now, how it looks is quite different. I have these modalities and I have extra understanding. I can easily pull things out of my brain, but back then it was really difficult. So I think for the most of the people that are listening today, they're going to need to do some inner work in terms of just letting the pen do the work, let it do almost the unconscious writing where it just flows. So morning pages is a thing that people tend to do, like writing at least one A4 size page of notes every morning just to get stuff out before you even start your day. So having a little bit of a morning ritual like that would be really useful. And I like to think, well, for me personally, things come through based on movement, and you can really shift your state in movement. And one of the easiest things for me to start to think about things without all of the other stuff, I can get quite stuck at my desk just doing things. But if
Mm.
I take a walk, down to the beach or whatever, that lets me have a moment, obviously outside of my office, and it lets me have some time to think and like process. And that's where a lot of, my ideas come through, and realizations of what's, going on under the surface can kind of come out. Other people sometimes have that in the shower. Something kind of
Always.
just comes through, and it's because we're stopping, we're taking ourselves out of like the constant movement in terms of doing things, writing in our journals and writing emails and all that sort of stuff, and going on podcast interviews and like all of the doing, where we're kind of just responding to like actually letting things fly, come in, and allowing time to processing what's going on as well.
Hmm. I love that. So, two main things there. I love those ideas of writing and movement. I personally love movement as well. I love to take my dog for a walk around the block when I'm feeling a little bit stuck or I'm just feeling like nothing's flowing.
Yeah.
Movement is definitely something for me as well. Or just even go and see and look at nature, look at water,
Yes.
be amongst the
Yeah.
trees. It really works for me. So,
Yeah.
obviously, it's very personal, it's very different for everyone, but some great ideas there about writing and movement. So now we know what visibility looks like and how we can learn to identify what may be holding us back. How can we actually move forward with our visibility?
So practically, it's deciding on the type of collaborations or opportunities that suit your personality. So I actually have a quiz that helps people identify their collaboration personality.
Love it.
It's like an archetype quiz. And so I
Yes.
have, I think, like 8 different archetypes. It's quite fun to do, and it helps people, yeah, really tune into the type of collaborations that suit their personality. So for me, I like to talk, but I also like to be behind the scenes. So I'm someone that is happy to do everything, but other people are like, I could never speak on a podcast. Like that freaks me out.
Mm,
And obviously we can deal with the under the surface stuff, but like let's initially just get you in a place where you're comfortable to do the simple, easiest thing. So identifying the types of collaborations and ways to be visible is probably the first thing. And then making sure that your calendar allows these opportunities. So oftentimes we get into a little bit of a habit of like, especially once we get into collaborations, we realize the possibility is quite large in terms of growing our audience.
yes.
Often, people do one bundle and then get the bundle bug and want to do them over and over and over again, which is totally cool and fine. However, we need to remember that our calendar also needs to allow time for us to promote our own stuff, not just everyone else's stuff. So having a bit of a system in terms of tracking and keeping on top of what we can actually promote
Mm,
externally. And because yeah, you can totally get into a state where your visibility is great, but no one knows what to buy from you because you haven't
mm,
actually sold anything
mm.
for months.
Yeah, no, I love that point because yes, I often see bundles come up and go, oh my goodness, yes, I so want to be part of that. I so want to be part of that. I so want to be part of that. But then when I go back to my calendar and look at what I really have already drafted or written in pencil that I need to look at promoting that particular month, it doesn't actually fit. So I love that one. I love that, make
Yeah.
sure that your calendar allows you to do this, have systems in place as well. And once again, going back to the no shorts, thinking about the type of collaborations and opportunities that you like that really do meet you with your strengths. Because I think that, yeah, there's a lot of people out there who obviously have visibility strategies that really work for them and teach those visibility strategies. But we then believe that we have to do those strategies in order to be visible. So, like podcasting, I love guest podcasting. I mean, that's just so much fun. And it's really in my wheelhouse. But at the same time, do I want to do that all of the time? Do I want to intermingle that with other things that I love to do? Like I love to create. So I love to create courses and new like mini courses. So that's why I love being in bundles as well. So yeah, just really thinking about your strengths and the fact that you don't have to stick with just one.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
And it comes back to starting with one and layering it on. You don't have to do them all at once, but like start with one that is really fun for you, and then we can add in all of the other stuff later.
Love that advice. Love it so much. So, you were just talking about opportunities then. How do we find opportunities or how do we become more proactive rather than reactive when it comes to visibility?
Yeah. So couple of places to be. So obviously I want you to all join my Facebook group, Bundles of Bundles.
Please
But that
do.
is yeah, but that is obviously very much bundle focused. So there
Yes.
are a few communities and Facebook groups and stuff out there that you can find these opportunities. So that would be one of the ways. There's also directories of people hosting things, but also you can put yourself out there and say, I am, interested in doing XYZ. Like, how can we work together? So there's directories for just podcasting like that. There's Facebook groups that are just about podcasting. There's obviously bundles and collaborations, more like summits and stuff like that. There's lots of places where you can go and discover. But once you've kind of like exhausted that, or at least found that you've gotten what you need to out of there, then I want you to start to pitch yourself to opportunities. So again, it's like, what type of collaborations do you really want to do? Do you want to do guest blogging? Do you want to do guest expert like workshops in other people's memberships? Do you want to do freebie swaps with other people? All these sorts of things. And then you need to find the people that are actually going to benefit you and that you're going to benefit them. So doing some research, finding those people, like starting to follow them on their various platforms. So perhaps social media, perhaps YouTube, perhaps they have a blog, and connecting with them, being real, making that human to human contact so that when you actually get to the point where you're going to pitch them, they already know you because you've been in the DMs, you've been liking their posts, you've been commenting on their posts, you've been responding to their stories. All of these things, all of these touch points have been happening, and they recognize your name when it comes into the inbox. So I don't like to do cold pitching at all, or cold, DMing or anything like that, because it's just going to get put to the side. You're going to be ignored. That you have to have a huge volume for that to work. And I don't think anyone really has the time or inclination to put that much out into the world. So instead, make some connections, build a relationship, and then see what's going to happen from
Oh
there.
my goodness, I can't agree with that anymore. If I tried, Bree, holy dooly. And as a podcast host yourself of the System Strategy and Soul podcast, I'm sure that you'll agree with me here that you are more likely to accept a pitch if it is from someone who, like you said, you've seen liking your posts or commenting on your posts or replying to your emails, and who is genuinely building a connection with you, has very similar values to you, than someone who just sends those random templated cold pitches to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so
Every now and then I do get a pretty cool cold pitch that comes through, and I'm like, ooh, they've done this really interestingly. Like, I like what they're doing here. But most of the time it is templated and boring, and like I just don't have time for
yeah, no,
it.
it's all about the human connection. I totally agree. Now, Brie, we've
Yeah.
spoken about doing the strategy side of things. We've spoken about mindset. Let's just quickly talk about manifestation if we can as well. How can we begin to bring this to our visibility?
So, the way I see manifestation, it is something that is ultimately happening to you, around you all of the time. Manifestation is essentially something that you want or don't want to happen coming into fruition. And so, like, our brain is always looking for patterns and reasons to prove our beliefs are correct and that we think a certain way and therefore it is the truth. So it's always looking for that evidence. So a perfect example of that is when you want to buy a new car. As soon as you've decided on the type of car, you see them everywhere.
So
Like, it's
true.
everywhere. Like, okay, there's another car. I've never seen that many of that model before, but I'm seeing them everywhere. And it's because your brain has gone, oh, this is relevant to you. This is important to you. Okay, you are now seeing them. Because beforehand, our brains were like deleting, distorting, and generalizing all of the information that's coming in. And because there's so much, we can't always see, we can't always hear and experience all of the information that comes in. And so it's like filtering everything out. That's why, sometimes you don't actually hear the cars driving past your window in your office until you're drawn to the attention of it. So when we think about that, we know that manifestation's happening to our benefit or detriment regardless. It's always looking for evidence. So sometimes it is looking for why we're not good at something, why we're not able to get up on stage and speak to someone. It might be because when you were in year 10, you had to do a debate and you got up and froze for a few minutes, or it felt like a few minutes. It's probably 60 seconds, but
Mm.
there's all this stuff that's going on in the background. So manifestation is actually, in my mind, subconscious work that we need to explore, and then seeing how that is manifesting into our reality. So, how can that moment when we stop and we're frozen for a little bit of time, how can that actually be playing out into our current experience? Does that
Mm.
mean that I don't want to ever get on stage because what if I froze? What if I didn't know what to say? And so we need to work on that in order to manifest what we actually want to see happen into the future.
That's really interesting. So it's almost like bringing the subconscious to the forefront of your thinking and then focusing on what's important to reinforce the things that you want to see in your life. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Very interesting.
Sorry, I was going to say vision boarding is something like people always think about when they think of manifesting, which is great. And it's always good to have something like that. It's really just about having a vision that we can always come back to. So whether or not that's in your mind or like placed in front of you in your physical or digital vision board, it's always really good to have that because it's just reminding, like under the surface, you're getting that repetition of like, this is what's happening, this is what's coming. And when and if it comes is based on the action you take towards having the thing. So whether the
Mm.
action is dealing with something that's on the subconscious or taking action, like the actual steps that you need to take to manifest it.
Mm. And I know that you've got a free resource for my listeners as well that can help them in this space. Do you want to just quickly talk about that? And I'll make sure I pop the link in the show notes.
For sure. So I have a set of affirmation cards. I actually have a few different like sets or kits, but the one I'm going to share with you is around self-worth. So, I talked about that before. It's really important to have like a really great view of yourself in order to achieve, the things that you want to achieve, to feel like you can put yourself out there. And so these are print at home affirmation cards that you can pull out every day and just get a little bit of a inspiration on what to do and how to move forward. So I think that that would be really useful for a lot of people, especially if we're finding that sometimes for me, like self-worth just keeps repeating. It is something that I deal with at one level and then the next level
Mm.
comes up and I need to deal with something else. So we're always kind of like exploring that and feeling worthy of an experience or an opportunity is going to be the difference between wanting to get on a podcast and talk to someone about a topic and wishing you could do it yourself.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that resource with my listeners. And like I said, I'll pop the link in the show notes. Now, Bree, I love to round out my episodes with an opportunity for reflection. So, what are three questions that my listeners could reflect on or perhaps journal on, writing, like you suggested, that could help them grow with the idea of mindset, manifestation, or collaboration in mind?
So I think that some questions they could ask themselves is, who do I want to be seen as? So going back to what we talked about before, who do I want to be seen as in the outside world when I'm pitching myself for things? Who do I want people to see me as the expert in? So that would be the first one. The second one is, how do I want to show up? So what feels the most comfortable for me, the most fun for me, the way that I want to actually be visible, the different types of collaborations. And the third one would be, who can help me get there today? So who can I pitch to? Who can I reach out to? Who can I message and say, I have this idea. Do you want to do this thing with me? Or, do you know someone that could help me with that? So yeah, reaching out to someone that can help you.
Beautiful. I love those questions. Who do I want to be seen as? How do I want to show up in the world? And who can help me get there? Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Bree, what are you excited for in the next couple of months? What's coming up for you?
Oh, great question. I think that I'm excited to grow into this new kind of way that I'm being seen. I really want to help woopreneurs, so like
Mm.
practitioners, coaches, and people like, Reiki healers and yoga instructors, like those types of people. I really want to help them with their visibility. And I do have plans to have a summit to help them with that. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that I'm excited about.
That is exciting. That is super exciting, Bree. I hope it goes well. But thank you so much for your generosity and for sharing your wisdom with us today. It's been an absolute joy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. You're so welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for listening. That's it for another week. To get more powerful content in your life, make sure you're following along on socials. My handle is @meldbusiness. And just in case you're wondering, the groovy music for this podcast was created by Just Here on SoundCloud. I'd also be super grateful if you took a moment to rate and review this podcast so more amazing women like you can experience the power of content. And if you're like, hell Mel, stop talking, I'm ready to work with you now, here's how we can work some powerful content magic together. Firstly, come and join the Content Effect, my membership inspiring women with service-based businesses to ditch the content chaos and start creating stand-out content that gets you noticed and makes sales. You can join us by using the link in the show notes or just Google the Content Effect. The second way we can work together is via my one-on-one packages. We can create a sustainable content strategy or start to build out your client journey. It's up to you. Pop on over to meldbusinessservices.com.au/services to find out more. Until next time, have a beautiful week and embrace the power of your content.